Boker Tov, good morning. We continue with our 3-minute daily dose of Torah and concluding our discussion about burial in the Marad Machpelah. Eventually, as we know, Avraham is successful in purchasing the burial plots there, the cave, and both Sarah and eventually he are buried there, and then it will be Yitzchak and Rivka who are buried there, and then it will be the next generation. And so this is how the deaths happen. Sorry to describe it this way. First Rachel dies, and then seemingly Leah dies, and then Yaakov dies. And yet, as we're told, Rachel does not make it into the burial grounds. And this is the hard part. Here's the hard part. When you have a Machpelah, not just a doubled cave, but apparently a cave where you can be buried by couples. What do you do with a family that has multiple wives? Yaakov has 4 wives, actually, 2 of them primary wives, Rachel and Leah. So what do you do? So Rachel presumably should have been buried there, and they were on their way southward from up north when the Torah describes what happens, that she's giving birth to Binyamin, and in the midst of childbirth, she actually dies. And so later on, and she's buried there. She's buried there in Beit Lechem, as we know, where the burial grounds perhaps is where, when we call the Kever Rachel, is perhaps the place where she was buried, perhaps not. That's for another conversation. And later on, when Yaakov is on his deathbed, he says the following to Yosef: "And it was when I was coming back from Padan that Meta alai Rachel died on me, be'eretz Canaan, baderech, in the land of Canaan, on the way, in the journey itself, ba'od ki baderech labo Ephrata, still on the way of arriving close to Ephrat. Va'akbereha sham bederech Ephrat hi Beit Lachem, and I buried her there, on the path or the road to Ephrat, which is Beit Lechem." Why does Yaakov bring this up? And the answer seemingly is because Yaakov wants Yosef to make sure to bring up his body from Egypt to be buried in this important place. And yet, Yaakov has to deal with the fact that he did not bring up her body from the journey to be buried there on that day. Admittedly, in Egypt, they had ways to maintain to mummify a body as his was, so it could make the long journey, and presumably it was not possible to make the journey with her without first, God forbid, there be some dishonor to her along the way. But it's a struggle. It's a struggle that commentaries need to resolve, to understand exactly what the reason was. Perhaps because of the nature of her death, but there was, he is well aware, a moment of decision that was made that Rachel, it ultimately meant that Rachel would not lie next to her husband and Leah would. These are the complicated questions that sometimes arise as people have to make decisions about burial plots and who is placed where, and sometimes quick decisions that have to be made, complicated ones regarding family. The issues that we're familiar with in our day and age were ones that in effect were already present and had to be struggled through in ancient times as well. May we be spared such difficult questions, and we all granted long life. Have a very good day.